everyone, Ivy Gaming here, and today we're playing Dragonheir Silent Gods. For today's video, I'm going to finish up my little series of rare tier list videos as we talk about the Radiance and Lightning Elemental Heroes. Alright, so this is the synergy for this season, Radiance plus Lightning. So they kind of go together for the most part of figuring out your team compositions. Of course, there are going to be different cases later on where you really want a full team of one element for harder content that comes later with Otherworld Exploration, or for multiple teams to go against the Copper Dragon at the very end. But we're going to talk about this more so helping you guys decide who you're going to use for the sake of, I guess, more early mid-game, even late-game suggestions here too, because there are a couple heroes that really stand out that can be used throughout the entire process, even in the hardest stages of geared dungeons. So those will be the ones that get the S-rated tier. So let's get into it. So when it comes to the Lightning heroes, we have Dauntless as a synergy. And then for Radiance, we have Rally. So those are synergies where you want multiple characters of that type within the team. 90% of the time, you know, it's they're always going to do better for one. But most of these heroes are not as good if you don't have other people in the team to kind of enable it, boost each other, etc. So we're going to talk about those heroes first. So this is a longer list of heroes. There's a lot in Radiance and Lightning, even compared to yesterday. So I'm going to try my best to go quick and only give like a 1 minute or less little blurb on each hero, maybe except for some of the special ones we'll talk about a little more. So first up we have Heg. I would probably consider him a middle of the road, but decent, Dauntless hero. He is okay. He does have a aura for all allies in dungeon battles to help boost that attack speed, which is going to be key when it comes to talking Dauntless. Dauntless heroes are kind of all about that attack speed bonus. Their basic attacks, doing multiple basic attacks usually leads to good stuff. In his case, he has an ultimate that hits decent. He grants a 25% attack up, then hits for more damage. So even though it's not crazy, it's only 680%. He is giving himself an attack boost first, and then he ignores 40% of the target's defense. So he definitely has good potential, single target damage. So he definitely deserves an okay rating and a solid choice for a Dauntless team. But I wouldn't say he's top tier. It's definitely going to be more niche against like bosses. Or if you're running a Dauntless team in Arena, he's probably going to do a good job taking out one of the enemies pretty quickly. But his passive is kind of meh, attack speed up whenever enemy dies. So it's okay, but there are definitely characters that boost attack speed better overall. So those I think deserve a little bit more love. Alright, next up for the Dauntless heroes, we have Vani. I think Vani deserves a solid A. People really loved Vani. I know in CBT2, she was a very popular choice for a Dauntless team. Her passive kind of gives her extra damage every 3 basic attacks. Nothing too crazy there, no aura for her, but her battle skill does hit pretty solid. She gains a 30% attack up buff, and that goes along with a pretty strong 450% attack with multiplier, which is great for a battle skill as she'll be doing it a lot more often. Plus, she does grant all Dauntless allies the big version of attack speed up on her ultimate. So her ultimate doesn't do any damage. She's a little bit of a combination damage dealer and enabler. But I think with her battle skill alone, if you gave her like the Statue Manticore, that would probably really help her to ramp up some serious damage with her battle skill. And then she could help enable the whole team by making all the Dauntless allies have more attack speed. And it doesn't have to be a conditional attack speed. So I think that really helps her value. Next up for Dauntless, we have Emerald. I think he's a bit underrated. I feel like I've seen people talk about him in a lower light or other tier lists not give him that much love. He's definitely someone I would use over Heg, and maybe even up here with Vani. I feel like he's a bit underrated, honestly, when it comes to the damage dealers in this category. So I might actually give him an A. We might bump him down to a B. I'll decide after I see kind of how the others fall. Once I kind of look at it visually. Sometimes it makes you change your mind. But Emerald actually has AoE damage on his ultimate, which is 70 to 750% attack damage. Pretty solid, pretty typical of a nice AoE damage deal. And a lot of these Dauntless heroes are all single target based, but they do attack fast, so they can kill enemies. But I think because he has this AoE ultimate with a pretty solid damage multiplier, I think it actually makes him viable for a little bit more content, helping clear waves faster, or even somewhere like Goblin. So that actually adds to his value, in my opinion. And then he has attack speed up that he gives himself. So if you don't have another attack speed booster in the team like Bonnie, then he can at least boost himself with his battle skill. Although it's kind of weird because it's like his battle skill doesn't do damage, it just boosts himself. And his passive actually grants him attack speed up, the 20% version, for 10 seconds at the start of the battle. So that doesn't last long, unfortunately, for the rest of the battle, but hopefully you can get a good aura. He does have an aura of like HP in all battles, which is a little weird. But I guess with all these guys, well, some of them being melee damage dealers, he could at least help keep them alive if you're in an area where they seem a bit squishy. But he's got a decent mix. I think, honestly, it's more the ultimate for me. But you know what? Maybe because we're talking, it's just that ultimate that's special. I don't know that he deserves as good as Bonnie. So I am going to bump him down to B. Let's go ahead. I think that's a little bit more fair. Definitely not C or D or don't use D category. D is for don't use, just period. Don't even waste your time. If someone really is that bad, but I don't really give anybody that yet because almost any character you can synergize with a team. Speaking of which, quick disclaimer, guys. This is a tier list. Any tier list is one person's opinion or multiple, depending on the tier list at the end of the day. So take it with a grain of salt. Have your own opinion. Have fun. If you find a team synergy that works, even though the character is incredibly low rated, you do you and you have fun and you make your own team synergy. All right, now we have Altair. So Altair, I think he's kind of like, I feel like Hag might be a little bit better as far as single target damage dealer overall, but Altair definitely sounds like he has some potential. He does bring the aura for all allies in dungeon battles with attack speed, which is great. For a Dauntless team, his passive, when he damages enemies when they're below 50%, he gains attack speed up. But it can only be triggered so often, and it's not the best passive because it's not like it's staying up consistently, so someone like Vani to boost everyone's attack speed more often is probably more valuable overall, but it's an okay passive if you're not having an attack speed booster on your team. His battle skill's a little quirky. Let me read this one directly. For 8 seconds... Let me try that again. My throat hates me right now for some reason. All right, for 8 seconds after the battles... Sorry, for 8 seconds after the skills cast, each basic attack inflicts an extra 80% attack lightning damage. It doesn't sound like much, but if you've got good attack speed on these guys and they're constantly attacking, which is kind of what Dauntless is all about, that actually is going to happen pretty often. So it might be a little bit more solid than it sounds like when it comes to 80% not sounding like very much. If it's happening frequently, that's actually pretty good. His ultimate, he does shoot like 3 crossbows, which deal, I think, 200% lightning damage, and then he gains more damage as like a bonus depending on his attack speed. So again, very much a kit that relies upon attack speed, which is what you're going to be pumping into your team anyway with Dauntless. So he definitely sounds like he can put out some damage, although I don't think it's going to be as top tier or as quite as hard hitting as some of the others. I don't think the rares are amazing for Dauntless overall, unfortunately. All right, and we have Ignatz here. I think he's another interesting one. I think his kit's pretty cool. Maybe a little better than Altair. And honestly, he is all about his basic attack. Like, a lot of these characters are going to have skills that are all based around, like, their battle skill or their ultimate counts as a basic attack. And he has the same. His battle skill does 300% attack damage and counts as a basic attack. His ultimate does 280%, but 3 times and counts each this skill is considered a basic attack. And his passive, every 3 basic attacks, he deals extra lightning damage and gains attack speed up. So he's just constantly going to be cycling back with proccing that passive pretty consistently because of everything counting as basic attacks. So he's actually going to do really good damage, and he might be a candidate for one of those weird artifacts that is about your passive doing more damage, because every time, again, every 3 basic attacks, he's going to deal extra lightning damage, just constantly proccing extra damage with his passive. It might even be pretty beneficial if you do have him in one of your Dauntless teams, to give it a try. I do think the Dauntless teams sound fun. There's so much interesting synergy to be had or testing to be done that while they're not like amazing sounding on paper, they definitely sound like they're all kind of in an even playing field, and they all have potential. Not as good, nearly as good as some of the amazing epics and legendaries, of course, in this case, but I think you can definitely use strong people like Vani to boost. And then again, I just want to quickly re-mention the reason Emerald is here and not here, even though he's here. Okay, so Emerald is down here if you're counting for a Dauntless team. But I'm not counting him for a Dauntless team. I'm counting him just as a DPS. And as a DPS, I think that AoE damage brings him back up here because you could just use him as a lightning damage dealer that brings AoE damage to your team, period. It doesn't have to have the Dauntless synergy as much. So I realized I wanted to clarify that before we move on to our rally heroes. So let's get into it. Rally heroes. There's some really interesting ones. I'm going to put Avania right up here. So she is a great new rally hero to be added. Rally is definitely all about synergy, and it actually is like a buff that gets added, keep in mind. So like she has a 75% chance to grant rally to another ally when she gains rally. So that's really cool. She's just always helping her allies get rally even more often, which is huge and massive for so many of these ultimates that these characters have. So I feel like it's kind of necessary to have someone else on your team if you're building a rally team, someone like Avania that can honestly really boost and make sure rally stays up on the key characters. We'll talk the legendary Filto as a great example. It's insane how much damage he can pump out when he has his rally buff up on. But you take away that rally buff, yeah, he's still good, but my god, it sure hurts his damage. I think it's like 60% difference or something crazy. He is a monster, but he needs rally. So someone like Avania that can help keep it up on him, that's an enabler, is huge. And then we do have a solid battle skill as well. Again, she does basic attack damage, nothing crazy there though, but a chance of granting her rally. So her battle skill can give her rally, which will then proc her passive to give it to an ally as well. And then her ultimate is solid AoE damage around her. She is melee damage, and she does 640% radiant damage with her ultimate. And if she has rally when casting, it consumes the rally and increases the damage by 30%. So it's just a really, really solid hit. Should do some good damage as well. And she can help enable your other teammates to do more damage. So she's a top tier option for a rare rally hero. All right, next up we have Kaylee's here. She's okay. I wouldn't say she's like a top tier rally option, but she's a little bit better / middle of the road. So she has a little bit of a weird passive where she like basic attacks have a chance to spread after hitting an enemy and dealing bonus radiant damage. So that's kind of interesting. And her battle skill allows her to get attack up and grant it to her ally who also has the highest attack on the team. So that sounds amazing in its own. She's going to help boost your biggest damage dealer, but I kind of wish that her battle skill also actually attacked, but you know, it's nice to have a little bit of a buff to help your teammates. But her ultimate is pretty strong, 750% damage in like that straight line kind of triple tile coverage way, and she does 750%. And then if she has rally, she consumes it and does 35% increased damage dealt. So there's some potential there, but I kind of like the adding rally more than adding just an attack buff on the team. So it's okay, but I don't know. I still think Avani is a better choice if you're building a rally team. At least Kaylee's could help though, because it does say it grants attack up on the hero, not a rally ally. So Kaylee's could be better if you're not building a rally team and you just need a radiant damage dealer that deals AoE damage. Maybe I deserve to give her a little bit more love the more I talk about her, honestly. Actually, she's probably good there. But that AoE can be huge in places like Goblin or other wave clear, or just it's a general strong hit. So pretty good hero, but I don't think top tier. And there's a lot of other rally heroes you're probably going to use otherwise. And also Rally, kind of like Dauntless. I feel both Rally and Dauntless, you're really not going to choose to do that as a synergy with only a bunch of rares or a meh epic. You're really going to be looking for like an awesome legendary to go with them. And maybe they can be the supports that help complete the team. But I don't think they're strong enough to just hang on their own as the main thing. All right, I've got to try to start going quicker because time just flies and I can't believe how long the recordings end up being. But it's talking about a lot of heroes here. We think we got like 23 heroes. Next up we have Brawl. Brawl definitely is not a meh hero. He actually has a pretty good kit. I remember thinking he was kind of mad at the beginning, but the more I read it, the more I'm like, you know what? This has some good potential. He does have a crit damage aura in all battles, which is great. And he can additionally gain a crit damage up buff as well when he gains Rally. So if someone else like Ivania gives him Rally, he's also going to boost his crit rate by 30 or crit damage by 30%. That's really cool. And he does ignore the enemy's defense with his battle skill, 30% the enemy's defense by with his battle skill with a solid 350 hit as well. And his ultimate does bring a little bit of a AoE, small range, but still helpful, 620% damage. And with that, he boosts his ultimate energy if that attack kills an enemy. So that's really cool as well, because then he can come back to his ultimate even faster. And if he has Rally, he does consume it and gets a guaranteed crit. So this is definitely the kind of hero that you could, because of the extra crit damage boost in his kit, you could probably build him with like no crit rate if you know that you can keep Rally up on the team pretty well and he's constantly got Rally. He has guaranteed crits, so it might be a little bit hard to synergize him, which is why I'm kind of going to put him a little bit lower. He's kind of like equal here, I guess, honestly. Nothing crazy. But yeah, he's a little bit quirky there. You definitely want to have Rally up very consistently, which can be hard to do to get the best out of him. But sounds like there's good potential if you could manage that. All right, Welby here. So he's kind of another, I guess I want to say middle of the road. He's got a decent kit, but I think there's a few that are just going to be stronger, and you're not going to build a team around him. But his passive, when granting Rally, he gains attack up to himself and one ally. I think it's random. It doesn't specify who gets it. And his battle skill does do a 300% damage and then grants a chance of granting Rally to a random ally for 10 seconds. So he at least has the enabling a team kind of a thing going on. So I would say he probably is a little bit better to fit into a Rally team than someone like Brawl. So I'll probably move him up. And he does bring an AoE. So even this AoE itself is helpful in non-Rally teams, but it's obviously going to do the best when they do have Rally. So 700% attack damage within range. And if he has Rally, he's going to consume it and gain ultimate 50% ultimate energy back, which is going to let him come back to that even faster. So that's pretty damn good. You know what? He's pretty solid. I might have to give him one of the higher. I'm kind of underrating him. I think he deserves a little bit on the high end of the Rally, because that ultimate is solid for damage dealing, and the AoEs can really come in handy, and boosting his ultimate energy to come back to it more often, and the fact that he is kind of like Ivania, he can give Rally to an ally with his battle skill. I think that's huge. So Ivania's is a little better because it's on her passive, and anytime she gets it, she's just going to keep giving it to others. But Welby can definitely help. It is on a battle skill, which happens more often. So, and it is random. And I know sometimes it's weird. I've heard like you can actually grant Rally to non-Rally heroes, which is pointless. So it's not exactly, there we go. It's not exactly the top, but I think his ultimate's pretty solid just in general. All right, next up we have Arlo. I don't know that he even deserves quite this category. I feel like he's one of the more meh ones of the group. Like, I feel like I would definitely choose all of those others up there above him if I had a choice trying to build a Rally team. He does bring attack in all battles, the small version, 18%, as an aura though, which is helpful. But it's kind of like, his passive just deals, this hero's basic attacks deal splash damage to other enemies in range. That can come in handy, but it's not a big damage. It's 50%, so it's okay, but not going to be a ton of damage. He does kind of act like an assassin where he'll charge to the enemy with the lowest HP and deal some damage with his battle skill, but it's not anything insane. 3D% is solid, but about the same as the others, so nothing too crazy to write home about for a battle skill, or just something that's trying to nuke out one person. It could be a good finisher though, but his ultimate's alright. He has a 670% boost or damage to a little bit of a range, not a big range, just the 9 square. And if he has rally, he ignores 30% of defense. So that does go up quite a bit from the 670% with his ultimate. But honestly, at the end of the day, I don't think he's that good. That's not the best skill. I feel like so many of them just have a little bit stronger ultimates, or the rest of their kit is a little more thorough. So Arlo's kind of a meh rally option. And our last rally option, I think, is also another meh rally option. We have Mueller here. Not that exciting of a kit either. His passive, when gaining rally, he gains 25% attack up. So that's great for him, but he doesn't give himself rally or help others get rally, it seems. So it's a little bit confusing. He does slash the enemy with his battle skill, but it's only 300% attack. Nothing ignoring defense, nothing else extra. Not that exciting, nothing to write home about, no extra boosting. And again, with his ultimate, he does do like AoE damage as a melee unit or in the area to everyone around him, but just a 600%, again, nothing crazy. Although if he has rally, when he does it, he'll deal an additional 300%. So that does turn into a 900% damage when he has rally, but he doesn't even give rally to himself. When gaining rally, he gets that, but nothing is like grants rally to the hero. He doesn't give rally to himself, so he's completely dependent upon others giving him rally, and for that ultimate to actually be good, which I think is just not really worthy of keeping him in the team, where some of the others at least have solid damage with or without it, or can help to boost their attack a little bit better and not require something that he can't even handle on his own. So that's all for the rally, folks. Let's go to the next. Let's go into our kind of supports, but they're more like DPSs in this case for some of these. So supports in this game don't always mean helping your team to survive or whatever. It can also mean just dealing damage, or what do we want to call it? Weaken the enemy, or stealing buffs, or taking away something that makes the enemy strong. And some of these supports do really good damage. And we're going to start with Grover, actually, as a pretty interesting option. So he's the kid. Grover's the kid. I actually think he's really good. I know he can actually hit pretty hard, and he has some really good utility. He's someone that's pretty cool with his trickster ways. So let's talk about him fairly quick. He has a Captain Aura for accuracy in all battles, which can definitely come in handy in some content when you're kind of building stuff, especially early on, and you just can't quite get the stats you need. He does have a really cool passive where he becomes invisible for 10 seconds if his HP falls below 35%. And it can only take effect every 5 seconds, but hopefully he doesn't have his HP constantly fall below 35% too often. His battle skill is great. He attacks an enemy 2 times. Not big damage, but hey, it's fine. And he has the chance of stealing ultimate energy. So he knocks down the enemy's ultimate energy and then can give it to himself and boost his ultimate. And his ultimate is pretty solid. He attacks twice, 370% damage, which is great. What's that? Over 700% damage. And steals a random buff from the enemy each time. So he can steal up to 2 buffs from the ultimate. And he should come back to his ultimate pretty often because of his battle skill. So I think he has great damage potential, especially when you're going against bosses that have buffs that you want to steal. He actually is pretty cool, and probably will be someone that we see in a lot of comps being used creatively. Actually, I'm going to bump him up to the A. He's just really good for that role as a buff stripper, and being able to steal 2 buffs in one hit I think is pretty cool. All right, next we're going to talk about Irina. She's going to go up here in the S tier. Everyone loves Irina for a very good reason. She actually can pump out some serious damage. She hits hard. She is a support unit, but she does a lot. So She has a passive that grants a shield to the nearest ally, which is definitely helpful. So it's like when she deals damage, she can grant a shield to allies, so she helps to keep them alive. She also does a chain lightning effect that bounces around the enemies up to 3 times with her battle skill, and it's a solid 360% up to 3 times. It's actually pretty good for attacking multiple enemies with that. And her ultimate here, attack penalty 2. She has a 100% chance to land attack penalty 2 and deal good damage along with it. 710% damage to enemies within range as an AoE buff. Oh, and dispels a buff from them as well. So 100% chance to remove a buff, place attack penalty 2, and do AoE damage is huge. She should absolutely be part of many lightning teams. And the reason I put her at the S category is because she was. She was in the top ranking, or top, I guess, suggested teams for the hardest dungeons, like the stage 9 gear dungeons, I mean. And she was definitely a part of it. I saw lots of her used there and I have screenshots to prove it that that was a big part of last season. And when someone can bring you the utility of that attack penalty 2, you want multiple people in your team, ideally, when you're going against a boss, to make sure that stays up. And Miss Irina here, well, she can do amazing damage, so you can't really ask for much more. A shield to help support random allies, serious damage, and one of the most important debuffs in the game. Really, really good hero. Oh, and she's like a buff strip. Like, she just does everything. All right, next up for our kind of supportive, interesting characters here is going to be Garana. She's a really solid kit as well. I actually quite like her. So Garana here is lightning support with a Captain Aura of defense in all battles, so that definitely could help keep your people alive if you're dealing with a tough battle where you're a bit squishy. She does dispel buffs on the target with every 3 basic attacks. So again, we have another buff stripper, which is huge. Buff stripping is really important. The buff dispelling, it's really big. She does bring a small version of accuracy penalty 1 there. Not huge, but it can definitely help if you don't have the highest resistance and you want to try to resist some debuffs from the enemy. And then her ultimate deals some AoE damage, or sorry, not deals damage. Her ultimate gives allies within range a shield based on her HP. So she's a bit of a mixed kit. I guess she's technically more the support, not DPS side of things. I probably should have put her in the later half, but she's one of those great support heroes. Really like her kit, honestly, but she's not going to deal much damage herself in this case. All right, another support hero we have is Fizzle. Fizzle's probably one of those middle-of-the-road kind of characters. I wouldn't say he's top tier, but I wouldn't say he's terrible. He does scale on defense and attack for his damage with his battle skill and his ultimate. His ultimate is like a chain lightning effect, which can also, again, remove a buff. So there comes that support. His battle skill does do the small version of attack penalty, so not quite as ideal as someone like an Irina. You would definitely never choose him over Irina, for example. But it's okay. But he's definitely not your top tier option, although he does bring enough utility to consider being used if you're really looking for those specific roles. When it comes to a little bit of damage, as well as the removing of a buff or multiple, and attack penalty 1 at least. He kind of can be tanky as well because he is based on defense, and his passive does kind of mitigate some damage when he takes big hits. All right, next up we have Dora, and I feel like Dora kind of disappoints me. I don't think she kind of deserves to be too high. She does bring some interesting utility, giving all your allies increased accuracy of 50% bonus, but at the end of the day, I don't know that that's good enough, you know? Like, she also boosts her own accuracy as well when there's more debuffs on the target, but all she does is place the small version of attack penalty 1 on her battle skill. It deals okay damage at 400%, which is pretty good for a battle skill. It does have a 100% chance to land, but it's the small version, not the big version. So I think if that was the big version, plus she had these accuracy boosts, that would be really helpful to help your team not to need to have as much accuracy. And she could be all about placing that attack penalty 2. But because she's attack penalty 1, I just think there's so many better options. And I could not see choosing her for the team. Another person I can't see a place for is Austin. Austin is just very basic. I don't want to, I know it sounds weird, but that's probably the best way to put it. Basic. He is a labeled as a support hero as well. He gains an accuracy bonus himself, just the small version. When an enemy resists a debuff, which is kind of quirky, he fires 3 shots with his battle skill that can do different attacks, different debuffs. But they're the small versions, and there's so many other people that have better versions of the healing having healing prohibition in their kit, that I just don't think he brings enough. Like, he wouldn't be the one you'd want to rely on healing prohibition for when he places 2 other random debuffs with his battle skill. And his ultimate is just a simple single target stun to one enemy. It is a nice big 800% damage, but considering that you can't stun most bosses and he doesn't bring much else to the table, he's just a very meh option. All right, now we're on to another section here. Let's talk about the even more supportive roles. Kind of like Garana was more of a support that also was true support, helps keep your team alive. Let's talk about our healers. So we have Enna. I'm going to go right ahead and put Enna in S tier because she can fit into so many teams. She has a Dispel of a debuff, a continuous heal, another heal, and yeah, she's just a really solid hero. Everybody loves Enna. She's a popular choice for picking from like that rare hero box as well if you really need that support. And we need dispelling of debuffs in so many areas of the game. And the fact that she gives extra heal or hit recovery with her passive and her battle skill just makes her an even better healer. And then yeah, the continuous heal or recovery over time on her ultimate just adds extra healing as well, making Enna a really top-notch option. And yeah, debuff dispeller for helping all allies is so huge in this game if you don't have some of the stronger epics that do it even better. Next up, we have Corian, and I am going to put him in the S tier as well. While I will say a little bit of a disclaimer, if you just need him for the heal, if you need a Radiant healer alone, the common hero Meredith Gray, yes, a common, can actually do a better job of healing than he can. But he is highly used as a healer for a Radiant team. And for good reason. I mean, there's not a lot of options for just a straight healer when it comes to the Radiant and Lightning, so he's still going to be a very solid option overall as a consistent healer for your team. Plus, he brings a defense up for all the allies in range, and he can put a shield and recovery over time on one ally as well. And then his passive does enable him to have a chance of increase the amount of healing he does. But his heal is based on the target's HP, not his. So it's a smaller bit, so keep that in mind, which is why Meredith can actually be better, which is kind of crazy. But he has been kind of the go-to Radiant healer in most comps, and you will still see him. Stage 9 dungeons of all the gear dungeons, you'll see him in there as a healer option, especially in those teams where you need multiple healers. Him and Meredith, him and Enna are definitely going to be a popular combo. And then next, for another healer, we actually have Keldo. I'm going to go ahead and put him up in the top here. He could be arguably an S tier because, well, we don't have many options. But Keldo, I'm just going to bump 1 tier down because he's more of a melee healer. So, Keldo, he does bring HP in all battles, but the small version to allies. So we hope to have a little better aura there, but it can definitely help. He does gain defense up as well, and with his passive, and he does grant ally protection to the ally with the lowest HP with his battle skill. So he definitely can help protect, but it's only for one ally, but his ultimate is great. So his ultimate is heals allies within range by 10% of their max HP plus 2,200 enlightenment percentage. That word's hard. So he actually is good because at least it can scale with his enlightenment and keep people alive. But I still think Corian is a little bit of a better option. Because it's okay again, but I think Corian is actually going to just be a little bit better. But they're kind of on an even playing field, I think, for the most part. But I haven't seen him in action enough just to warrant putting him as S tier that could change. If you guys are like, nope, Keldo's way better, feel free to let me know in the comments if you think Keldo has performed better than Carrion, if you have actually compared them both. But because I really don't have the statistics to see him excelling in the highest level dungeons like I do from Carrion to know for sure he is viable there, I really can't put him in the S tier until I see that for real. All right, next we have our defenders, which there's not many. Sally Ann is the only defender for Lightning, so that should say, oh, I should put her up higher. But honestly, no, not really. She's just not that great. And because you have a couple better Radiant defenders to choose from for this team synergy, I'm just going to say no, don't use her. She keeps herself alive. Okay, cool. She does do okay damage to just enemies directly around here, but it's not great. You know, it's just one hit is solid. Okay, sure. But the attack penalty 1 that she brings as a defender, it's not good enough. Attack penalty 1, we don't want attack penalty 1. We want attack penalty 2. And there's so many heroes that do that now that I can't see using her as a defender of choice. You're kind of better going off affinity for defenders and not stressing about having 5 of the affinity if you've got better options. So Barrack is another one of those selfish defenders. He sounds okay because you see attack penalty 2 on his battle skill, and at least his damage does scale with attack and defense, so he's probably going to do some decent damage as a tank. But the attack penalty 2 is only 60% chance to land. It does go up a little bit higher, 7 to 75% chance to land, but there's so many heroes that do 100% chance. So I just don't think he's kind of viable either. I kind of think, again, another meh option. I really hope if you guys are going to choose a tank that you can choose an epic or legendary, or choose someone that is not of the same element, and you're going to benefit more than getting a character that just can't quite keep it up. At least it is a battle skill. So you could argue that between the other couple, he's quite a bit better. I'm going to put her way down here. But yeah, he's definitely better than like Sally Ann, but you'd rather just use Horus that we get for free as a tank than someone that's not, well, actually he's not consistent either. He's 75%, but you can put the deep artifact on him that gives him 100% chance at least. But he brings a little bit more. He's going to be more tanky, and yeah, I don't know. Barrack's okay. He can definitely self-sustain pretty well thanks to his ultimate, but there's just way better options, I think. Now, the final one is Dane. So Dane is actually a defender that helps the team. So I'm going to go ahead and give him a nice boost up here. He's a much better option as a tank compared to the others. So he deserves a little bit more love. All 3 of them have the defense in dungeon as an aura, which is great, that we just talked about. But he also just adds defense up to the character with the lowest HP at the start of the battle. So he's just going to straight give someone a 30% defense boost to whoever has the lowest HP. That sounds amazing, honestly. That's huge. It's going to help keep someone alive. His battle skill is going to do damage based on his attack with a stun. Man, not the most exciting battle skill. But his ultimate grants ally protection and damage reduction to him and nearby this hero and nearby allies within this range that he has. So he is going to give genuine damage mitigation and boost another ally's defense. So at least he's a decent option, but he doesn't bring like decreased attack or a heal. So I would still much prefer to go with someone who gives a bit more, I don't know, a bit more to the team, you know, a bit more oomph. So I think that's kind of where we're going to stand for this tier list, guys. Longer video, but we had a lot of characters to talk about. I'm just going to go really tiny in the corner for a second so you can see everybody, but that's kind of where I stand. Definitely could debate about, I could see bringing Emerald down here, like I said, if you're going with the idea of, is he really good in a Dauntless team? No, but I really still like him. Barrack, again, maybe him and Dane are kind of similar as far as a decent tank, but Barrack just doesn't bring enough for me and not consistent enough with the decreased attack. So I don't know, that's kind of where I feel like these guys land, and I think there are definitely some strong heroes to consider in that top, but hope this video was helpful, hope the conversation was helpful and get you guys thinking. Please let me know in the comments if you guys have thoughts on some of these characters. Please do so in a nice way, and always remember tier lists are just one person's opinion, And always make up your own mind at the end of the day. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video.